So, welcome to the Light Conversations. I'm so delighted to be joined today by the one and only Jamie Catto. Hi, Jamie. How are you today, and where in the world, what country are you in today?
I'm very good, even though it's been a really insanely tough, challenging week. Um, I'm very good today. The sun is beaming through. We're beginning to do some planting today of the beetroots and the turnips and the leaves, and it's even some flowers. So that's exciting. And I'm in Oxfordshire.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so you've had some experience in the past with farming, so obviously that's come in handy. You know what you're doing.
Very little. I'm
Yeah,
one of those people that does an instructional video when I try something out for the first time.
and it works.
Yeah, I just like it. Like when you're doing something the first time, I think it's the best time to record an instructional video for everybody else.
So, are you doing instructional videos on farming or no?
Exactly. I have a Facebook group called the Virgin Veggies.
Oh my God, you actually do. I love it. You're such a
People that
doer.
haven't done it before, and it's never more. Hang on, let me just move the.
Oh, look at that green
Um,
behind you. Beautiful.
it's never been a better time to, what with the lockdown and everything, it's never been a better time to plant
Right? Plant
and
seeds,
maybe get a bit
literally.
less sufficient on the shops, which don't exactly care about our health so much. Unless you have a lovely local health food shop, the big shops, they don't care about the planters, they don't care about the growers, they don't care about the amount of fossil fuel it takes to get the stuff to where it needs to go. And yeah, most of it's made out of sugar. So it's a really, really, and also, we don't know how the system is going to, our general food system is so up the spout. It's a very, very to at least supplement your own shopping with some things that are easy to grow.
Such as.
Root vegetables, very easy to grow, pop them in. Leaves are very easy to grow. Kale is very easy to grow. I'm growing beetroots because I have a particular connection to beetroots. I don't know if you've ever read the opening chapter of Jitterbug Perfume by Tom Robbins. Is a tribute to the beetroots. I could even read it to you now. Maybe
Yeah, if you've got it.
it'll use. Okay, stay there.
Okay, lovely. Oh my gosh, I love this.
I always get told off by our gang because everyone else is busy weeding everything and Jamie will only touch the beetroots. That's my
It's your thing.
anyway. This is how the beginning of Tom Robbins, who's a wonderful American novelist, wrote this book, Jitterbug Perfume. It's a rather lovely first edition. The beet is the most intense of vegetables. The radish, admittedly, is more feverish, but the fire of the radish is a cold fire, the fire of discontent, not of passion. Tomatoes are lusty enough, yet there runs through tomatoes an undercurrent of frivolity. Beets are deadly serious. Slavic people get their physical characteristics from potatoes, their smouldering inquietude from radishes, their seriousness from beets. The beet is the melancholy vegetable, the one most willing to suffer. You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. The beet is the murderer returned to the scene of the crime. The beet is what happens when the cherry finishes with the carrot. The beet is the ancient ancestor of the autumn moon, bearded, buried, all but fossilized. The dark green sails of the grounded moonboat stitched with veins of primordial plasma. The kite string that once connected the moon to the earth, now a muddy whisker drilling desperately for rubies. The beet was Rasputin's favorite vegetable. You could see it in his eyes. In Europe, there's grown widely a large beet they call the mangel wurzel. Perhaps it's the mangel wurzel that we see in Rasputin. Certainly there's a mangel wurzel in the magic of Wagner, although it's another composer whose name begins B-E-E-T. Of course, there are white beets, beets that ooze sugar water instead of blood, but it's the red beet with which we're concerned, the variety that blushes and swells like a hemorrhoid for which there is no cure. Actually, there is one remedy. Commission a potter to make you a ceramic arsehole, and when you aren't sitting on it, you can use it as a bowl for borscht. An old Ukrainian proverb warns, a tale that begins with a beet will end with the devil. This is a risk we have to take.
Brilliant, brilliant. Totally spontaneous, beautiful reading of a story about beets. Now I get it. You are the beet man in more ways than one. Thank you, Jamie. That was lovely. Have you done a few of those audio recordings? Have you narration?
No, I'd like to. I've written to Audible because there's a few books they don't have on Audible that I would like to read, and it's quite tricky to do it. They have a whole system where you have to deal with publishers' rights and things. But yeah, I would love to. There's a book called Jenny by Paul Gallico, which is a beautiful kind of kids book, not really kids book, about a little boy that turns into a cat and finds himself on the wild streets of Glasgow being looked after by an alley cat called Jenny, and it's so touching and profound. There's another book by my favorite Turkish writer, Yashar Kemal, who spent much of his life in prison from writing folk tales that criticized the government. He wrote a book called Mehmet My Hawk, which is another absolute favorite of mine. There's a lot of books I'd like to read for Audible. The only one I've read for Audible is mine,
Oh,
Insanely
you
Gifted.
have? I was going to ask you if you have. So there's an audiobook of your own book.
Of Insanely Gifted, yeah.
Awesome.
With me reading it.
Okay, I definitely need to hear the audiobook. I'm a big fan of audiobooks. At this time with the little ones, it's the best way for me to get through books. Holding a book, I miss holding a book, but audiobooks, you can do other things whilst being totally immersed in. Okay, so that's next on my list is the audiobook of Insanely Gifted, which I have a copy of and have actually read as well before the second kid came along. I got through that, so thank you for that book. So what are your days like at the moment, other than gardening and planting seeds? Is anything different for you in life from your?
Well, of course, all my mentoring and one-on-one sessions are usually online anyway, so they're the same.
Yeah.
And the people that need help. And the workshops that I used to drive places and teach in groups in rooms now are online. So there's those. One every couple of weeks I do. There's one this Saturday called Insanely Gifted, actually open the channel to flow state. A lot of people feel very blocked with getting creative or getting just into the flow of their lives. And it feels like a big mystery, as if we have to generate things, we have to earn our love, we have to make a project, we have to do stuff. And actually projects and songs and creativity and just businesses, whatever you're doing, they go much better when you let them do you, when you're in a yin state, being moved, rather than a yang state, doing and generating. A lot of people have been so brainwashed by school that we have to generate everything we do that they forget how it really works. So that's this Saturday at 10:30 UK time, Insanely Gifted. And I go for a walk every day. I walk about, I don't know, my app tells me I walk 7,500 steps.
Amazing.
So that's a few kilometers, I'm sure. And
I just want to pause for a second. Insanely Gifted. Sorry, that's the workshop that you're doing this Saturday.
Yes, it's at jamiecatto.com/workshops. You can get the Eventbrite link to it.
I've done that. I've done all your workshops actually, and I loved Insanely Gifted. I've done it twice, and like with several years in between. And who have you created that for, really? Like your idea?
For everybody who wants to do stuff but feels stuck, or they don't have to feel particularly stuck, but just like whoever wants to be in their creativity, be able to talk to other people without feeling nervous, be able to start their business, or be able. There's a workshop the week after called What About You, which is directly bring your dream project into the world. But Insanely Gifted, the one this week, is just more general. It's more about how to live life, letting it do you rather than you doing it.
Okay.
And be a passenger for the great thread of genius that is moving us all. There's so much abundance of treasure of great parts of ourselves that we can share. And we, as I said, in school, we have been brought up to think we have to generate it. We have to think it up. We have to sit down. We have to get on with it. We have to, and it's not really like that. It's more about being moved by it, being of service and being responsive and sensitive to it and being moved, rather than us having to sit down with a blank page and do it. So the flow state in all areas of life, I guess it's for everybody who likes hearing me and the sound of my voice over and over again interminably.
It's amazing. It's having attended your workshops, it really is truly amazing how you are able to speak so charismatically with such clarity for such lengths of time. I mean, was this sort of like a
narcissism? I think is the word you're looking for.
Do you think this is okay? This is no, come on, seriously. Did this just open up in you this capacity to teach?
Well, it's very much something we teach on the course, is that when you have the desire in your heart for someone else to get something, your mouth will do it amazingly. You don't have to plan the speech. Just you wanting them to know, your mouth does the rest. And there's a lot of things I want people to know.
I love that though. So basically get your ego or your brain out of the way and your mouth will do the rest, sort of.
Always, yeah, that's a huge part of the course.
So what's it like teaching these courses online now? I mean, you must have a classroom of people from around the world as opposed to driving to one city at a
I
time.
love it. Oh my God, it's removed so many of the bits I didn't like. I don't have to drive 2 or 3 hours somewhere. I don't have to pay for and stay in a grotty Airbnb.
Yeah.
I don't have to like deal with the whole venue and all the costs and the setting up and the da da da. You know, I'm at home. And also it's great because instead of having 20 or 30 people in the room, you have like over 100 people on the screen, and they all meet each other, and you chuck them into breakout rooms, and you're in a group of 4 now with someone from Russia and somebody from Amsterdam and somebody from somewhere else, and you know, it's just really it's really intimate. Amazingly, I know a lot of people have these complaints about the online screen situation and everything, but I think that the geography makes absolutely no difference, and there's just as much intimacy as far as I can see just by us being like this with each other. It really, really works, and reaching many, many, many more people. You know, a lot of people can't get to where I am a lot. So we have people from Croatia, we have people from South Africa, Australia, Thailand, you know, like people from all over the place who couldn't possibly, of course, nip over on a Saturday to hang out with me. So it's opened up the whole thing, just like the teacher training I'm doing this year, Bring It. It's called Bring It, the teacher training to teach how I teach and to make games how I make them and do my games. Again, you know, now that it's online, I can train people to teach my games so that these brilliant games go, because when I started doing these games, they were really just to release creativity. But now, like, I get all these letters from people saying, my eczema's gone, or I'm talking to my daughter for the first time in 4 years, or I've come off my depressive meds. I realized I didn't need them. All these amazing breakthrough kind of big life-changing trajectories happening just from these games. And although that wasn't really intended, it's so wonderful that's what they're doing. And so like the idea of lots of other teachers teaching those games or making games like them or bastardizing my games, and so it's not just 30 people a week in front of me, that's 25 more teachers, 25 rooms of 30 people, you know, it gets exponentially reaches more and more and more people. It's really exciting.
How cool. And these games, are these have these been part of your workshops that you've been doing over the
Yeah,
last?
the games on the workshops, I just
Yeah.
teach people how to make them, how to change them, how to teach them why they are like they are. I taught somebody that a few months ago, I trained one teacher as a sort of experimental 3 months. And I'd never really looked at my games in that way before. I'd never actually deconstructed them and gone, oh, this is what we do and this is why we do it. I just kind of just you know, I just teach them. But when I was actually looking at them, I was going, wow, that is really clever. I get why that works. You know, I'd never kind of
So you
looked
got
at
to
what I thought.
take an objective perspective on your creation. Yeah.
And it was like, it's fucking clever.
Yeah. Cool. So basically you're all geared up. Is this the first round of teacher trainings that you'll be doing? The
Yeah, it
first one?
starts mid-July.
Mm,
It's nearly full now, but there are a few places left. If people go to jamiecatto.com/bring it, there are a few places left. I'm sending out the course outline and having discovery calls with people that want to do it.
okay. And how long does it run for? How long is the?
It's two Tuesday evenings a month, so every other Tuesday for 10 months.
Okay. Okay, cool. That's doable. I ask because I feel like this is a really good time to learn. I think, we're all in the
Yeah.
lockdown. We're all in this kind of reevaluation, reassessment. How are we going to live, survive, etc. beyond this time? And I would say it seems like a lot of people are picking up that hobby, that passion, that interest. And
No, it's a great time to learn something so that you're not limited to what you're presently doing, that you've got something else you can do that will maybe bring in a few quid. And even if you don't want to teach workshops, the Bring It teacher training, it's for facilitators, leaders, healers, and clowns. There's a degree of clowning on it, because clowns are the beings, they're not entertainers, they're people that represent the thing that no one else will represent. They show up in the vulnerability that no one else will show up in, which is a big part of what we do. We teach from the middle of the mess. We don't teach from on high. We teach with empathy. Um, and so it's good for anyone that just wants to bring more of their gifts. It's not just for teaching workshops.
I like that. I like the not teaching from on high like with humility and from the perspective of a clown. I mean, that seems like a much more accessible sort of teacher, much more real.
Much more honest.
Let's talk about authenticity, because that's like a really big part of what you teach. What does authenticity mean to you?
Well, due to our childhoods where we were shown what was and wasn't welcome about us, we were born with a whole natural spectrum of everything that we are. But we all grew up in a home where our anger was shut down, our tears were shut down, our fallibility and getting it wrong was often shamed or beaten out of us. And also beautiful qualities like our flamboyant entertainer, our joy of sharing and being center stage for a minute and sharing our gifts. So many beautiful essential parts of us were shut down in our childhoods that people have tended to um, through that violent editing process, just present to people a shop window of themselves, a sort of a very sort of limited brochure of what they think people will like. And they, in the name of being appropriate or not making a fuss or not triggering people, everybody only shows each other a tiny bit of who they are, and that is a huge limit for the intimacy and connection we all want. It's a huge limit for the creativity we want to share. It's a huge limitation for all the enjoyment of life, and it's one of the huge factors which cause addiction and depression, because the amount of energy it takes to maintain what I just described is huge, and it exhausts everyone, and they're lonely in it, of course, and we're all lonely in meeting someone like that. So in every way, that's not working. The answer to that is allowing more of us to be seen. It doesn't mean we have to go 0 to 100% and just like everyone, but just a little bit by little bit, snorkeling around the edges and just showing a bit more vulnerability, showing a bit more honesty, showing a bit more mess, showing a bit more of the parts of us that aren't perfectly groomed and perfectly, definitely appropriate. Letting go of that uptightness, tiny bit by tiny bit, and I stress tiny bit by tiny bit. It's not a great big violent mask ripping off thing. It's a very gentle, in your comfort zone, little bit by little bit process, just to stretch a little bit more authentic, a little bit more courage to show who we are. And of course, when we show those parts of ourselves, people don't run away screaming, going, "Oh, I can't believe." They're like, "Oh, thank you. I can breathe. I can feel a bit more safe to show a bit more of myself," and the intimacy and the connection with each other and the creativity naturally just grows. So yeah, that's what it means to me.
Yeah, I love that. I suppose there is always the chance that people won't be totally comfortable with authenticity and may be forced to face their own, and it can be a bit uncomfortable sometimes for people, for
Mm.
sure. You learn that as a kid sometimes when you show your true colors and someone doesn't want to be your friend anymore and things like
It's
that.
very, yeah, well, it's because of that pain of those moments and the risk of ever having that again that people shut themselves down. It's exactly because it felt so painful being shamed or laughed at or exiled that we don't risk it ever again. And we've really thrown the baby out with the bathwater far too much with that, in my opinion.
Mm. So on the theme of authenticity and being real, look, can we just talk for a moment about your film, Becoming Nobody?
Mm.
I am dying to see the film. I've been sort of excited when you would travel to cities, that I've lived in, just posting it up, like, yeah, Jamie's doing a Q&A in Vancouver, etc. But I didn't get to see it. How many years did you make this film for? And obviously, it's very significant because of the very sad passing of Ramdas.
Yeah.
So.
I love Ram Dass. He's the ultimate sacred clown. He's the funniest, most unpretentious teacher that ever lived. And he's what switched me on to my own rummaging around and working with my own melodrama. And I just asked him if I could make it about 5 years ago, but it took a long time of stopping and starting again. It's basically Ram Dass's greatest hits. It's his great transmission all in a row, and bits with me and him chatting, and him being very sweet and compassionate to me in all my nonsense. And I stopped it and started it lots of times because to make a feature film that didn't look like a glorified YouTube self-development clip was a challenge. So we eventually found a beautiful visual way to do that. It took 5 years, but it wasn't really 5 years work. It was 5 years of stopping, scratching my head, starting again. The actual film probably only took a year and a half to do of actual work. And it's called Becoming Nobody. It's on Gaia. You can stream it. And at becomingnobody.com, there are all kinds of ways to download it and get it.
Yeah, I've got a hat I don't know how, somewhere in there I ordered a hat and it says becoming nobody. I guess that was at the uh, GoFundMe phase or something.
Yeah, maybe I should have
Yeah,
got one of those.
yeah, I have, which I
Well,
like.
we're all, you know, the idea of becoming nobody is that we're all so busy in our childhood training. Our parents are somebody; they want us to be somebody too. We go into somebody training, Ram Dass says, when we're little, and everyone's busy being somebody. When really the great joy and relaxation of life comes where you drop that whole busyness of specialness and me, and what do I want, and just go into a bit more service, a bit more lightening up, and be closer to becoming nobody than becoming somebody.
Yeah, that's the sort of enlightenment, the
Well,
idea.
let's not overdo it. Again, we say words like enlightenment, we're asking for trouble. Let's not let's not
How to
give
trick with
ourselves
baby. Okay, tell me.
these big, unreachable, ridiculous aims. Enlightenment. Give me a fucking break. Let's just try not complaining for 2 weeks.
Right.
Enlightenment is like, head towards it if you think it exists. I don't know if it does. Don't worry about enlightenment. Worry about just having a peaceful week, being kind
Mhm.
with the people who are around you and listening deeply and letting them listen to you and being seen. Let's just start small. There's enough low hanging fruit to give us a huge lift and more enjoyment and less suffering in our lives without dealing with enlightenment. Let's just be a bit kinder and a bit more visible with each other, a bit more connected. Let's just start small.
That's beautiful and so much more attainable and so much more
Yeah,
day to
exactly.
day.
This whole over spiritual, I'm on a path, I'm trying to be enlightened this lifetime. Please, you're not going to be enlightened this lifetime. Again, just do a month without complaining.
And then, and yeah, if you can do that, then you might be on your road to.
Yeah,
But I think of the great sort of Buddhas, lamas that I've met along the way, they seem to have this kind of humorous, like, I am nothing, I know nothing, despite having been on
exactly.
a lifetime journey of studying spirituality, like to then get to a place of, I know nothing. It's like,
And I
what?
don't care. That's the point. It's not caring you know nothing. Of course you know nothing. And everyone studies Tantra and Sanskrit and all these lineages and Tibetan Buddhism and all this stuff. And it's all great to the point at which you realize it was all a route to get you to the place where you realize with all of this information and 10 times more of it, it's not going to bring you enlightenment. Enlightenment is not beating yourself with a stick to do enough self-work and workshops and reading to get to somewhere. You're already here and there's nothing to learn, there's nothing to do except to practice acceptance and kindness for where you are right now. You can do that without any lineages and self-help books and everything. It's just doing all that stuff is often a route for people to realize it was all kind of pointless, and they had it all the time.
Indeed. I just want to take a moment to say I have a young baby, and you might hear him in the background sometimes. And I think that's the reality. We are in a lockdown situation. I'm lucky I have a husband who's with our baby right now. But sometimes when I do these recordings, there's a baby crying in the
I
background.
like it. No, that's good. When we do One Giant Leap recordings and stuff, I like it when a car drives past or a donkey starts braying near the thing. It brings aliveness to the now.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. I know I sort of, there's the perfectionist in me that's like, oh my gosh, the audio recording, now has the baby. But we are in a lockdown.
Baby crying.
We are all dealing we are all dealing with being contained. How are you feeling within that? I mean, there's obviously the joy of growing vegetables, but how does this containment feel? And what what are you looking forward to when we're free again, free to move around and free to engage with each other in a physical world again?
Well, a lot of cuddles.
Yeah.
Um, and just how lovely it is to gather all around a table, eating and drinking and sharing and be in a room together, all dancing. The same things everyone will miss, not having to queue up to get food. But also, there's a lot that I'm not looking forward to. I kind of hope the lockdown doesn't end too soon because I don't want us to return to the same constant superfluous shopping. I like the fact that we don't need 97 different moisturizers with 97 different labels. We don't need all those stupid expensive handbags with different brands on them. We don't need 90% of the shopping that everyone's done. And shopping and consuming has become the new recreation. Instead of hanging out with your family or going for a walk, people go to the mall or they go somewhere to buy things as their time together. And I hope people have learned from this lockdown and all the shops being shut that 90% of what you were buying you didn't need. Save your money. I don't, maybe it won't be great for the economy. Let's find a different way of doing the economy and not consume our way through this planet so that everything's destroyed, and all the plastics and the fossil fuels it takes to get things places, and the plastics that it's covered in. We don't need all that stuff. We probably need a little bit of it, but we need 10% of it at most. And I hope we don't return to that overconsumption, shopping life.
Yeah. So ideally, less shopping, more being present, less complaining, more planting.
That's one way to put it. Thank you. Yeah, that'll be a start. Thank you. I'm not saying this is a complaint. I'm saying it is what's obvious to me, and probably everything I've said just now is absolutely obvious to everyone listening. I don't think anyone would dispute what I've just said. Of course, that would be best. And I just really hope that I think the longer the lockdown lasts, the more people will realize that. So I'm hoping that it will last a little longer. But also I do acknowledge I don't want all the people who are in their solitude and depressed, and I do want those people to have contact. So I'm not saying I want the lockdown to carry on and create the amount of depression that it's creating and loneliness. So that obviously is a factor. Maybe there's a way we can find a balance.
Things like what you're offering, like the courses you're offering, are the perfect antidote to people who are in isolation, like lockdown alone. Because
we also do a gathering on every Saturday or every Friday, depending on if it's a workshop week. We have the gathering, which is just called the Lovely Gathering, and it's not a workshop. It's just 100 or 200 people come online, and just people share a poem or a song or how they're feeling. And it's not a workshopy thing. It's just a sharing. It's like a big party of just people. Sometimes they're sad and they need support. Sometimes they're laughing about something beautiful, or that the dolphins have come back to where they are, or the owls, or the nature is regenerating, or they just want to listen. People, most people don't speak. They just like listen and be part of it. And it's just a lovely gathering. Yeah, that's a really lovely thing that's going on too.
And can people join that even if they're not part of your workshops?
Oh, yeah. It's just a free link for everybody. It's on my Facebook wall. I put it up there 10 times in the 2 days leading up. Don't forget, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Don't forget, 15 minutes.
Amazing. I have actually seen that. I'd be like, whoa, juggling a baby, thinking, what is that? What's happening in 15
the baby. Because
on mute.
Everyone's on mute until they speak.
Listening, because a big part of my motivation to record this podcast at this time is for friends and family members. I have some friends and family members who are alone through this lockdown, and I sort of felt like I want to create content for them and anyone else who might just want some their ideas. But I love that you're offering, there's a lot out there for people who are on their own to keep engaging with other people.
Yeah.
And
please tell your people to come to Insanely Gifted this Saturday and to the Bring It teacher training if that's a bigger deal. But if they want to do that and the gathering, I've got to jump off now.
Oh, it's been so good.
Someone is waiting. Let's do part 2 very soon, another time.
Yes. Thank you, Jamie. Lovely to hear you and see you. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
See you in the real world when this is done. See you on Zoom, more likely before then.
I love.
Thank you, Jamie.